And I am back! Yo-ho-ho! I've had to take a hiatus because I was, like, moving to a new place, but I'm all moved in, so now I can get back to doing what I love. Gaming, playing video games, and then talking about those video games. Day 1, Trial 1. I believe last we left off, long ago, there's this girl on trial for murdering her father with poison. I'm sure I will be debriefed by the court case. October 8th, 1948, District Court. Good morning. So, you're Vera, right? I'm Trucy. Trucy Wright. That's right with a W. But, not right, right? We're on your side. You can tell us anything, please. Good morning. She's autistic. She speaks! Not bad, not bad. But I think you do better with a little smile, you know? You're so pretty. You need to sell yourself, you know? He really did say you'd look prettier if you smiled. Juicy, let's take it easy for starters. Hey. Thank you for taking my case. Oh. Okay, well, that's a start, I guess. Hey, everyone has their own ways of communicating. There she goes with the nail polish again. That's great, really. It's so cultured. Is that like, is the hand actual size, or is it like a teeny tiny hand because the nail polish bottle is small? Want to try? Ooh, really? Girls. Misogyny, well, it's just... The victim, Drew Measham, was a forager. Drew Measham. Drew Measham? Drew Measham, which makes more sense. I'll just go with me. And a stolen painting was found in his studio. A life of crime, really. Maybe one that led to his death. Like, let's see if I can... Oh! Yeah, see? Drew Measham. Vera Measham. Yep, knew it. Daughter, father. Classic Freudian case.
Well, we will now, begin the, trial of, Vera Measham.
Is the judge okay? Oh no, he's poisoned! His voice is all raspy and he's looking around all nervous like.
The repercussions of today's trial will most likely be felt for a long time, and may indeed alter our legal system forever.
Today is a test of the jurist system, and the first step toward a new order in our courts. And then they didn't change the court system for the next 3 games. No, 2 games. Daddy's secret mission. The jurists will function like a jury. It is hoped their inclusion will help the courts to better reflect the people's will. This is going to be a disappointment if it's nothing like the Great Ace Attorney. Why aren't there any jurists in the courtroom? And I also know that the 2 Miles Edgeworth games are on the Switch, so now we have a re-release of every Ace Attorney game, except for Professor Layton crossover. Through enclosed cameras, watch this courtroom at all times. The jurists have access to everything that transpires. Jurists judge well and judge cool.
Now see here, Prosecutor Gavin, I was going to say that.
My apologies, Herr Judge.
Judge today's trial coolly, if you would be so kind.
The jurists are unbound by the letter of the law. They don't affect the trial with evidence, but by their feelings. And we're about to find out just what effect they're going to have.
Very well, Prosecutor Gavin. The details of the case, if you would.
The victim is the painter, Drew Measham. He was killed in his own studio. His coffee was poisoned. By whom, you ask? By none other than the defendant, Vera Measham. Right off the bat. There wasn't any poison in the coffee. Achtung, someone has been doing their homework. Indeed, poison was not present in the coffee, but on the mug itself. The mug?
Ah, residue was found on the rim, I see.
The autopsy report describes the manner of our victim's death.
The court accepts this as evidence.
I'll only slip into the German accent when he says something German.
According to this report, the victim's death was caused by atrocinine poisoning.
A chemical compound that does not occur naturally. Lethal dosage is a mere 0.002 milligrams. A touch of atrocinine in the body is the touch of the Reaper's scythe.
Very well, Prosecutor Gavin. You may present your witness.
I have for you today a simple man for a simple case. A man who witnessed the murder in its entirety. A journalist, no doubt. Oh, Spark fucking Brushel. The witness will state his name and occupation.
Ugh. Right. Well, for starters, my name's Spark Brushel. My job is a lone observer of the world.
In other words, a freelance journalist, right?
Ahem. If you don't mind, I'd like to state something here for the record.
Freelancers deserve to be killed.
Yes, Mr. Brushel? I dislike conclusions, specifically the aspect of jumping to conclusions. Preconceptions make Park's sandbox of endless desert waste. End quote.
But you are a journalist. You said so yourself yesterday.
Well, that's true, yes. But you must understand, I stand before you today, a man with a dream. I'm offering you my testimony in exchange for exclusive rights to the story. Scoop turns Mr. Brushel into that Mr. Brushel. End quote.
Let's hear your testimony then, shall we? A simple case, Gavin? For me, the jury is still out.
I visited the studio around 9 that night to do the interview. The first outsider to enter the atelier. Journalistic history made. End quote. His daughter brought us coffee right after we started. And you know what happened next. Star falls. End quote. No one else entered the room besides her the whole time.
That does sound like a simple case.
Unless you were the one who poisoned him. What are you saying, Judge?
Yeah, I'm the one who makes the accusations, bro.
Need I remind you, the cameras are rolling today. I felt the need to be a bit dramatic.
That's my job. Accusing the witness is my job. Don't take this from me. You didn't do it, did you?
Me do a thing like that? Come on, that's like newsmaker making the news. End quote. Or even contemporary witch hunt. End quote. I know, wild accusations rock courtroom. End quote.
Rock indeed. Prosecutor Gavin sure looks like he's having fun. I'm so happy for him.
Very well, Mr. Justice. Your cross-examination, please. I visited the studio around 9 that night to do the interview.
9 at night. Isn't that a little late for an interview?
If the great painter Jew Measham says come at 9, believe you me, I go at 9. The first, and as it turns out last interview, with such a prolific painter.
Right. Can you tell us what it was like when you arrived? You were the first reporter ever in Jew's studio.
Posterity will look back on that night as a turning point in journalistic history. A basically insignificant step for all mankind, but a giant step for that Brushel guy. End quote.
If no one on the outside ever had access to the studio, then it would serve to reason that the deed was done by an insider. Business insider, by which he means Vera did it. So, how did this epoch-making interview go?
His daughter brought us coffee right after.
What did the coffee taste like? Would you mind being a little more specific? How do you take your coffee?
Ooh-wee!
This fucking goober.
Let me tell ya, I enjoy a cuppa. In fact, it all began when I was in 3rd grade. No, wait, 4th grade.
That's not what I meant. I believe I know what Herr Forehead is driving at. This coffee the victim was served. Did anyone other than the defendant touch it? Right, that. That's what I was going to say, really.
Well, now, if you've got a question to ask, you'd best straight up ask it. That's what I tell all the new recruits, several times if necessary. Write for a grade schooler. That's my motto. Which isn't to say I can only write grade school level stuff, mind you. Who touched the coffee? Dunno. I was in the back looking at the Suya's equipment when she served it.
And what happened next?
And you know what happened next? Starfalls. End quote.
What's this about a star falling? Star falls, huh? It's like an old telegram. Send money over.
Zowie, you don't know. That's like a journalism code word. An important personage passes away, a star falls. Get it?
But there's no gravity in space, is there? I wouldn't think stars could fall, really. Does this matter?
Oh boy, this is good stuff, good stuff. How about star breaks? Nah, lacks punch. I know, star dies. Nah, lacks imagination. Of course, you could go with Drew dies straight to the point. I like it.
Bro is just fucking talking. He just keeps talking. I think we need to hear something a little more substantial. What was like the moment of death? About when Mr. Measham passed away.
Oh boy, what a scene that was. He puts his coffee mug down with a crash, right? Yes, and then? Then the cold finger of death touches his spine. Life's flame sputters and fails. So cold was that touch, he could do naught but tremble uncontrollably. Actually, life's flame is a little tired. Life's river froze over. Yes, that's a go.
I think he's starting his article already. Could you describe that a little more simply?
Well, as you can imagine, I was pretty surprised. He hit the floor, as they say. Artist Caesar, his final performance. End quote.
Atrocunine paralyzes the central nervous system. The body arches back like a bow, the limbs tremble, the throat burns.
That's quite enough of that.
Your liver liquefies, your eyeballs melt, you shit your pants.
Some of us want to be able to sleep tonight. Oh yeah? Well, I want details. Lots of juicy details.
For that, you can listen to our last year's hit single, Atrocunine, My Love, by the Gavins, available at all major music outlets.
The point here is that the victim died of atrocunine poisoning. Well, Mr. Justice, how do you find that testimony?
Let's look at the record, right? Autopsy report. Death by atrocunine poison, estimated time of death. It seems to... no contradiction. Atrocunine on the cup. Maybe... 7. Just as an account of the moment of the victim's death, I'd say it's very important. Please add it to the testimony.
Very well. The court requests the witness add this account to his testimony.
Let's see if I can... Now it's definitely death by poison. No, wait. He sure makes it sound exciting. I guess that's his job. There's only one moment we need to focus on, really. The moment when Major Measham died? Exactly. There has to be something there. Oh, wait, I am on the right track. Okay. Definitely death by poison. Spasms. You say it was definitely death by poison. How can you be so sure?
Hey, look, I'm a journalist. I've seen a lot of things. And I've had more than my share of experiences with so-called poison-ins. Man eats fishy fish, goes bye-bye. End quote.
That's food poisoning. Food poisoning doesn't count. Exactly, bro. Should I get him to talk about something else? The coffee. What was in your coffee? The Stars coffee. You'll say Mr. Measham had the coffee too, but did you actually see him drink the coffee?
Of course. He who sees it wins, but he who says it wins bigger. End quote. I live in a man sees eat dog, and writes about it world.
Wait, does the dog write about it? This guy is fucking just... Yeah.
I guess I can't say I saw him drink it, really. Okay. And the human body is 70% water, so who am I to throw stones in my glass house? In fact, I can't even jack off in my glass house no more. He had one so-called sip, if that. Man puts lips to mug, drinks, end quote.
That poison is quite volatile here.
My stomach did a so-called somersault, since I gulped down that coffee without so much as a second glance at it. Wait, maybe something's there. Some kind of so-called drink. Anyone want to venture a guess for the record?
Does this guy have a pause button? Fine.
Well, Mr. Justice, did you find that testimony valuable?
The victim drank his coffee, then immediately fell over.
Oh, yes. You can go to press with that one.
Your Honor, this is a vital piece of information. Please add it to the testimony.
No, the witness will add this to his testimony.
Fine, right.
Ugh. Even in my new room, there are still flies.
Yeah, one sip, if that.
Daughter brought us coffee. One sip. Oh! On the floor. Oh, I see. Thankfully, I loaded. So you can only have one part of it being the testimony. So, okay. The convulsions. Wait. Yep, convulsions. Come on. Skibbity, skibbity, skibbity toilet.
No one else entered the room besides her the whole time.
Can you say that for sure?
For sure? Sure, I'm sure. Drew's studio isn't a big place, kiddo.
Wait a minute. Joey Drew Studios? Did I already make this joke? I don't know. Bendy and the Dark Revival was kind of underwhelming. And apparently the creator is a real milkshake duck. Milkshake duck is racist. What if they had been hiding there from before? Even if someone had been hiding in the studio, they hardly could have poisoned that mug without anyone noticing.
You think Iceberg Brusher would miss something as obvious as that? No way!
He sure makes it sound exciting. I guess that's his job. The moment when Drew Nisham died? Exactly. Has to be something. Coffee. Spasms. Slow acting. Maybe that's it. It's another like oh, it's a slow acting poison, so how would he have maybe it is one of the other things. Yada yada yada. Your coffee. You drank the coffee the Vera served you too?
Of course. When someone serves you coffee, you drink it. That's what my old boss always used to say. Never did get what he meant by it, though.
But you're still alive, which is to say you didn't die.
Of course not. No point falling before you're a star, end quote.
That's not exactly what I was getting at. What were you getting at, then? You know the poison was on the rim, not in the coffee.
Oh, yes. There were 2 cups on the tray she brought, and one of the cups had Drew's signature painted on the side.
No chance the guest would take that one by mistake, I guess.
Well, Mr. Justice, was that testimony important?
Signature. Oh, yep, that's a signature, alright. Let's see what he's... We're talking about the coffee the witness drank. I'd say that is important. Maybe. I drank the coffee too, but I'm not dead yet. It's a slow-acting poison. Oh, God. Okay. Spark Brushel lives for now. Oh, the victim drank his coffee, then immediately fell over.
You can go to press with that one.
Your Honor, this is a vital piece of information. I found the contradiction. One sip if that. The next moment, but it's a slow-acting poison. I swear to God, they better not update the autopsy report. You know what I have a problem with? A particular property of the poison used, atrocanine.
Oh, Prosecutor Gavin was quite clear about the poison. A lethal dosage of 0.002 milligrams paralyzes the central nervous system. If you drank that, even you, Mr. Justice, would be reduced to a quivering pile.
He's already a quivering pile. Why are you using me as an example? Unfortunately, we weren't told everything. There was a vital omission in Prosecutor Gavin's information.
An omission?
Atrocanine is as virulent as he says, but that doesn't come upon ingestion, not immediately. That's because atrocanine is a slow-acting.
Slow-acting?
What?
According to one forensic scientist, it's one of the most virulent poisons, but it is absorbed into the body astonishingly slowly. It takes at least 15 minutes from the time of ingestion for adverse effects to show. If we suppose that the moment Mr. Measham sipped the coffee was when he sealed the fate, then he would still have had time left to enjoy his last cup of joe.
Order! What's the meaning of this? If what the defense says is correct, why, that contradicts the entire testimony you just heard.
Well, Mr. Brushel, anything to say? On the record.
Slow-acting. It was violent, all right. Even then, it had already begun digging his claws into the journalist.
He's working on his scoop. I know that wasn't 15 minutes ago. Is he gonna die? Is he gonna die because he also drank the fucking poison? It's Brushel, yeah. Herr Brushel, let's take a trip back down memory lane.
Huh?
Objection, leading the witness. Objection. No bitches. Did the victim really die the instant he took a sip? Think it over. This is vital.
You know what I think? I think that was a not-so-subliminal suggestion. End quote.
I admit it does cause a problem if he died when he say he died. I would be forced to say off leadership to my simple case. One of you ever had a simple case, you fucker, and you would be forced to say farewell to your article.
Come again?
You can't write a story based on conjecture, can you? Yes, you can. It's called an opinion article. And as the case drags on, other reporters will pick up the scent. And you'll be forced to kiss your exclusive scoop goodbye. Damn, he's good.
Scoop? Look, wait, just wait a second. Just 1 second.
We're waiting. Out with it.
I think I just recalled a so-called important detail. A revival of recollection, end quote. A story survival, end quote.
Attorney utterly confused, end quote.
Actually, I did notice something when I visited the studio. I'd heard of poison that tasted sweet time, see?
But not what I've been saying for the last few minutes, apparently.
Mr. Brushel, are you saying you noticed something that explains what happened?
You bet I am. The antidote for a poisonous contradiction. End quote, you might say.
Or I still have no idea what you're talking about, end quote, I might say.
I figured it out, but only after an in-depth interview. See, thanks to my journalism skills, I know who poisoned that coffee.
Order!
As far as I can tell, the witness is standing by his testimony that Mr. Measham died the instant after he drank.
Of course, I'm still standing by my testimony. My dream of exclusive rights to this story.
I suppose it was too much to hope for. What was? Of course he wouldn't choose a simple case, not him.
Him?
Phoenix Wright. Who else? Oh, right, I forgot he was in this game. Actun, Herr Brushel, report for us, if you would. What is it that you noticed?
This court is a critical trial of the justice system. I'm afraid no room for doubt is permissible. You will testify to the court about what you noticed.
Ladies and gentlemen of the giraffe.
When I arrived at the studio, Mr. Measham was at his desk. He seemed to be writing a letter, but he quickly sealed the envelope.
The envelope.
I thought nothing of it at the time, of course. Now that I think about it, what if he was writing a suicide note?
This envelope? I've deposited the... Oh!
A suicide note.
Yes, he had this look on his face. Man's face inscrutable as a quadratic equation. End quote. Suicide? Poor Mr. Measham. But that means Rare is innocent. Would someone commit suicide in the middle of an interview? Oh. Joker almost did it.
Very well, you may begin your cross-examination.
Knock, knock. It's the police, ma'am. Your son's been... Why would you say something so controversial and so bright? You get what you fucking deserve. When I arrived at the studio, Mr. Measham was at his desk. Seemed to be writing a letter. Over at the safe, yes. Let's see here. This one. Damn it. This is the fucking teapot. The teapot is not relevant. Your Honor, hey Apollo, I bet the bellboy shot him. You mother... Describe the envelope. So he put the letter away when he saw you?
Early reporter gets worm and quote. That's my secret.
I'm not sure I follow.
It's the night of the interview. I arrived 15 minutes ahead of schedule. The handle turns, the door opens, and I barge in.
Are you sure that's okay to do? I mean, isn't that unlawful entry, really?
Mr. Measham sure seemed to think so. You should have seen him. He crammed his letter into that yellow envelope as fast as he could. I know a secret when I spot one, and that was one.
It does seem significant. Well, Mr. Justice?
I wonder. It does have the ring of something important. Add what to the testimony? Does seem significant. Yellow envelope. A yellow envelope. Add it to the testimony. The defense finds his testimony vital, Your Honor.
Very well, please add it to the testimony then.
Hey, why not? My account comes free of charge.
Are you sure it was yellow? And you saw him seal this yellow envelope with a letter.
Hey, don't look at me like that. I saw what I saw.
Apollo, you think this might be our big break? Yeah. What I need is to show some decisive evidence now. I thought nothing of it at the time, of course. This envelope. As it just so happens, there was a single letter in a desk drawer at the scene, in a red envelope.
Wow!
Don't do that. Go. Prosecutor Gavin. Yes. Was a yellow envelope found at the scene of the crime? Unfortunately, no. But, Herr Forehead, it's easy to mistake the color of an envelope. Yeah, maybe this guy's colorblind. Don't judge. I guess, but not this envelope. You see, it was postmarked already 7 years ago.
Well, Mr. Bushel,
I can explain that. Drew, right? He wanted to get that letter in an envelope, pronto. Get it out of sight of my beady eyes, right? So he grabbed the nearest envelope and crammed away.
And what about the whole red and yellow envelope contradiction? Chump! You chump!
Well, Mr. Justice, have you anything to say to the witness's claim?
That night, the victim put a letter he had been writing in a red envelope. It's possible. Gotta save. Save Skullman is the meta. Wait a minute. Oh no, that's not empty. A letter he had been writing in a red envelope. It could be possible. It's entirely possible. But Apollo, we checked the contents of that envelope yesterday, didn't we? Oh, you're right. God, the answer was clear if I'd only given a little thought. Shit. I don't want to embarrass Apollo. Not scientifically possible. Oh, I like her expression. So full of confidence. It's simple, really. As it just so happens, the defense team investigated the contents of this envelope with the assistance of a forensic scientist. What? Note that this letter is addressed to Drew Measham,
How?
Why would he address a letter to himself? Let alone send a suicide note to himself. Oh, I wasn't even paying attention to that.
I've been scooped!
Order, order, order. Mr. Brushel, can you explain this to the court?
Oh my, how could I have forgotten? I suppose this happens to the best of us. Reporter gets old, forgets lots, end quote.
Still waiting for an explanation, Mr. Brushel.
Well, that's the thing, see? After he put his letter in that envelope, Mr. Measham sat there searching his desk drawer for something.
His desk drawer.
Yes, a stamp, a so-called postage stamp, end quote.
A stamp? Whatever for?
Well, to mail his letter, what else? And then, why, yes, I think I saw him put it in his letterbox. Yes, it was a yellow envelope, and he put it in that box.
But the box is empty.
Well, apparently, this yellow letter has nothing to do with...
Oh, how I wish it did. Just think if that were a suicide note. What a story. Star writes suicide note in front of reporter, falls. End quote.
As I was saying, that has nothing to do with this case. That said...
Yes, Your Honor?
It makes me wonder about the contents of that red envelope. $100,000 is quite a good deal of money.
So this was from 7 years ago, yeah?
So am I finished? Here, am I finished here? I was thinking of, going home to start writing.
That'll have to wait, broski. Yee.
I hate to state what should be pretty obvious to anyone, but when you catch the end of a story, you make that a rather unique face.
Ah, come on! Attorney has active imagination, little else. End quote.
Gaslighting. Even I noticed something, and my eyes aren't what they used to be. I'm starting to understand what all this perceiving stuff is about.
Judge has active imagination? End quote. This bit is getting old, end quote.
Please continue with your testimony. Tell us about the scent of a story.
Hey, I'm the one asking the questions here, usually.
I'm the guy with the sweater who asks all the obvious questions.
Actually, it took a bit of work to get a thumbs up on the interview. Reporter leverages story, gets his interview, end quote. The story concerned a certain case from 7 years ago. That red envelope probably had something to do with it. Say what you will, but Drew's talent was without compare.
So you threatened to go to press with this story. That's how you got your interview? Blackmail?
Well, yes. No. It wasn't exactly black. I'm not, racist.
What?
Something wrong, Mr. Brushel?
Look, this is my story, my tidbit. Journalist info is livelihood, end quote.
I see.
Why do you have me chatting away in here? What's going on out there? What if some Wally Wordsworth or Sally Scooper gets wind of my story? They could be going to press while I'm going to waste.
The court feels your pain, Mr. Brushel. Mr. Justice, let's pick up the pace.
A certain case 7 years ago. Wait. 7 years ago? Oh, God, it's the same thing with every final Ace Attorney case. It's always like, yeah, open up, you reveal the fucking years-long conspiracy.
Actually, it took a bit of work to get a thumbs up on the interview.
Ah. Reporter leverages a story, gets his interview. Story concerned a certain case from 7 years ago. Perceive. How do I know which is the... It's definitely his nose, right? The nose. Wait. Shit, I should have paused it. Is there like... Where's the button that pauses the... Oh, right. Maybe I should press, like... The victim, Drew Measham, had an aversion to reporters.
Boy, I guess. Not even my considerable charms did much for him. Until I finally got my thumbs up, that is.
Maybe you can elaborate that on that bit for us. A certain case 7 years ago? Tell us, what case?
Let me state one thing, Mr. Attorney, and you can quote me on this. I can't talk about that case.
Sorry, I had to drink water. Doing voices hurts my throat, man. Why not?
It's about journalistic pride and staunchness and credibility and connections. Journalists reveal sources only over his dead body. End quote.
What? No, terrible, terrible way to go about journalism. You should always disclose your sources. You can't just go, so my source is, it's a secret. That's worse than sources. Trust me, bro.
So what'll it be? Gonna strangle me? Dead men don't tell tales, Mr. Attorney.
He sounds pretty determined not to talk. Our chances of breaking his will aren't looking good. How do you know it had something to do with it, huh? On the one hand, we have your story, and on the other, this letter. What makes you think the two are related?
I was just saying it's possible.
Weasel words.
Call it reporter's intuition. End quote. Hey, I say a lot of things. You're going to pick all of them apart? Be my guest.
All of them? No, just the incredibly suspicious ones. Everything this guy says is suspicious. It's a problem.
I see. Anything to add about Mr. Measham?
Just how amazing was Mr. Measham's talent?
Huh? Ooh-wee, boy, I mean, hey, he's a star, man, a star. The flow of his brush is like a great undulating river across the canvas. Artist's paint lights up studio like sun, end quote.
This guy's full of wacky gestures. That one just now is wackier than usual. Looks kinda nervous to me, Apollo. Definitely. I'm sensing something different than before here. Maybe it's time to bring up the you-know-what. That testimony left a bad taste in my mouth. It all makes sense. Nothing jumps out as ridiculous. Wonder what this story he's talking about is. It must have been good to get an interview with a famous recluse like that. Something powerful enough to drag Drew Measham out of hiding. I wonder. Maybe it had something to do with Mr. Measham's art? Okay. Oh! His armpit. What the? He's lactated. Sweat much, Mr. Brushel?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't help his glance, you know.
It's more than that. When Mr. Measham's talent was mentioned, you suddenly began to sweat buckets. You were hiding something about his talent. Why was his mouth moving when I said that?
What? That's ridiculous.
Evidence time. Let's show where Mr. Measham's true talent lay. It just so happens I have evidence showing the talent mentioned in that letter. It was this. This painting was found at Mr. Measham's studio. There are two problems with this painting. The first is it wasn't painted by Mr. Measham. The second is that there was another painting in the studio, which looked exactly like this one, except it was only half done. Then we have a letter discussing a payment of $100,000, which suggests a certain business operation. The business of making forgeries. Gotcha, bitch. Of course I cheated. Wouldn't be me if I didn't cheat. That is all, Your Honor.
Everyone, please, everyone! Can we keep this private, please? This is my story, my scoop.
Forgery. That's a serious crime.
Yeah, well, he's dead.
Drew Measham is known as an artist these days. Was, but there are rumors he dabbled in another kind of art until a few years back.
Another art meaning forgery.
Drew Measham was talented, all right. Talented at making precise, detailed fakes. A fact that certain criminal elements were quick to discover.
Criminal elements? What? You can't seriously be talking about...
Exactly. I'm talking about forging evidence. The rumors started circulating 7 years ago.
7 years ago? So why are we to understand that this letter, this payment of $100,000 was for...
Exactly. Forged evidence that's tidy profit, end quote.
Order. Oh, forged evidence.
Why, it's like our victim was living a double life.
Aha! This is my chance. So the victim had ties to the criminal world, right? He could have had plenty of enemies we know nothing about. This is my first time hearing of this criminal world. We certainly found no criminal connections when we conducted our investigation. But how do you explain all this money? You have to admit there's a possibility of some illegal activity here. But there is no proof tying this letter to our case. Is this trial even about whether or not the defendant is guilty anymore? Like, I know that's a stupid question to ask, but, like, I cannot emphasize enough how none of these trials are ever actually about whether or not about establishing guilt. It's just who done it. And that's fine. I love whodunits, you know? Everyone loves a good whodunit. But it's never actually about, like, the defendant doesn't actually have to prove the client's innocent. She just got to prove that somebody else did it. Prosecution doesn't seem to have to prove shit. No. Actually, no, that's a lie. Edgeworth at least does a bit of an effort. Prosecutors actually do their job for the most part. Even the shitty ones like Winston Payne and Von Karma. Our case was and remains simple from the beginning. Only the defendant could have poisoned that mug that night. And you, of course.
Hey! The only thing I poison is my pen when I'm writing reviews.
Mr. Brushell, your testimony to this point has been quite unreliable. It doesn't speak well of your reporting acumen.
What are you talking about? My journalism is rock solid. Journalism so solid you can stand an elephant on it. End quote.
In any case, let's hear a summarized recap of your testimony. If you can ascertain the situation in that studio from the recap, trial is over.
Whoa, what's he talking about? Cross-examination showed Mr. Brushell didn't have reason or means to poison him. As long as there's no other suspects, then the killer had to be Vera. That's why. This next testimony is our last chance.
Mr. Brushell, your testimony, please.
The only other person in the studio that night was the defendant.
And you. Oh, right.
It was Vera who poured the coffee. She's admitted as much herself. The only thing that touched Drew's lips during the interview was that mug. And nothing left that studio after he died. Nothing. Clearly, the only one who could have poisoned him was his daughter.
A nice testimony. Clear, succinct, and without room for doubt.
Aw, shucks. You really think so?
I believe this clarifies the situation that night. Very well, Mr. Justice. You may begin your final cross-examination.
You know, what sucks is that, my computer doesn't have that much storage, so I have to delete old videos after I upload them. Which could be a problem if my channel ever gets nuked. We'll have fucking lost media. That's right, lost media.
You may begin your final...
right. I still have one trump card left to play, and I won't let this trial end until I use it. The fucking envelope.
The only other person in the studio that night was the defendant.
The Artful Forger, like the Artful Dodger. Is that a thing? I don't remember. But that doesn't prove Vera poisoned it. How many times have we heard that one here for it? The poison reached its victim via that coffee mug. And from where did that coffee come, Not to be the dead horse again and again, but perhaps he could fill us in.
I'm on it. You need a horse beat? I'm your man.
I touched his lips during the interview with that mug, and nothing left that studio after he died. Not one thing? You sure?
Yep, sure can be. Well, with one exception.
One exception? What?
Journalist Spark Brushell does interview, leave studio. End quote.
Yeah, you left.
Come on. It's a joke, get it? Not funny, I know, but still.
Did something leave the studio that night? Why does that sound familiar? Where have I heard something like that before? Well, I'm at a loss. I do not know. It's been forever since the last episode.
Now that we've proven our witness is a comedian of sorts, I'd like to turn our defense attorney before returning to the testimony. Do you have any idea what, if anything, might have left the studio that night?
And just one thing. Just fake it till you make it, baby. I think one thing very well might have left the studio that night, actually. A certain something that has vanished from the crime scene. What?
By what you mean?
Something other than our
Witness?
Of course. Don't tell me. Vera Measham? Believe me, any comic relief I may provide is entirely unintentional. Womp womp.
Then let's see what you've got for us, Mr. Justice.
Well, this thing wasn't at the scene of the crime, so I can't show it to you. But I do have evidence that shows how it could have been taken from the scene. Frame, acrylic. This is a disaster. It's not the fucking illusion magic, is it? No, can't be. Only contact with the outside world. This is the only link between that studio and the outside world.
A letterbox?
What did Mr. Brushel just tell us? When he entered the studio on the night of the murder, the victim had just finished writing a letter. That reminds me, I gotta check my mail.
Yeah, I said that, and yeah, it was true.
Furthermore, he went on to tell us that he put the letter in a yellow envelope and put it in the letterbox. But that very same letterbox was empty. In other words, that night, the yellow envelope disappeared. Ooh. Yes, intriguing. So an envelope has disappeared from the scene of the crime. Of course, this changes nothing. Huh?
Here's a point, Mr. Justice. What we're trying to figure out here is how the poison got into Mr. Measham. Is it really important that this envelope the witness says he saw disappeared?
Well, it did disappear, then something did leave the studio that night. That seems very important to me.
Very well, then. The witness will add this to his testimony.
You got it.
I still think this fails to change anything, Herr Forehead. I wouldn't be so sure. A letter disappeared from the crime scene that night. This is exactly the opening I've been looking for.
A letter was put in the post from the studio, but I hardly think that matters.
Well, it's empty, so... Can I open this? Not now. Nothing could be more serious than an envelope disappearing from that studio. And you were hiding that fact from us.
Yes, well, actually...
I don't argue the possibility that a letter disappeared from that studio. But Herr Forehead, isn't there a much more serious question before us? Right, how Mr. Measham was poisoned, I know. But Mr. Burchell's testimony has changed, which means the facts of the case have too. And what he's told us means something entirely different now, I'm starting to think.
Let's keep thinking, Apollo.
Letter was put in the post from the studio. Did any of us ever actually, like, check the fucking paper inside that frame? Because maybe there's... I'm just gonna shoot. Nope, it was worth a shot. It was a shot in the dark. Shot in the deck. How Mr. Measham was poisoned. Oh! 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 No, because of... Damn it. But I think I'm on the right track. Maybe just press him on that last statement. You say clearly as though it were obvious. But this claim that the defendant poisoned the victim is a merely conjecture.
Yes, well, you see, in my business, it's all about making the most ridiculous things sound right.
Oh, yeah, that's also my business, too. I'm a lawyer.
A bad habit, I know. Yes, well, or actually, I guess this is more a case of ridiculous journalist sounds wrong, end quote.
You should really become a defense attorney. You'd be good at it. Spark Brushel, ace bullshitter.
The court is forced to agree with you. Please refrain from wild conjecture.
Understood loud and clear.
If only I could believe that. What do you think, Apollo? Everything he's saying seems so not flawed. Well, that's kind of what you want from a testimony, really. I need to keep my eye on what matters. How and why was Drew Measham killed? If I report the coffee, that's not going to change. But if that coffee didn't kill him, I need to find what did and prove it. The only other person in the studio that night was the defendant. It was Vera who poured the coffee. The only thing that touched Drew's lips. You're sure about that?
Well, to be really, really precise, I was busy gobbling mint candies the whole time.
Ugh. One of those candies might have been poisoned. Yet, at the time of the autopsy, no fresh fragrance of mint filled the room. And no mint residue was found. It was a long shot anyway. Don't tell me you were still trying to prove this. You think the victim ate, drank, or otherwise ingested something other than coffee? I mean, yeah, otherwise he would have been shitting himself.
Well, Mr. Justice, if you have some proof...
Possibility is there, I feel it, just maybe not prove it, not yet. And possibility isn't going to cut it, not now. Mr. Measham ingested that poison via a route other than coffee. I can prove it. Proof is possible. Here goes nothing. You do not understand what we need, yeah? Proof here, forehead, not possibilities. Of course. And, Prosecutor Gavin, I hope you understand. I'm ready to give you that proof. It's going to be another gamble, aren't... What did you say? I have proof of the disappearing envelope. No, wait.
I saw him writing a letter, I did.
Which was picked up by the mailman, I assume.
Of course. Which means that envelope had a stamp on it.
A stamp. Ah.
As we all know, stamps come with dried glue on the back. In order to use the glue, you have to wet it. By licking the stamp. This was a Seinfeld episode! Jerry Seinfeld! George Costanza's fiance, dies from poison because she licked too many envelopes. She died from glue poison. No one worth talking to actually licks stamps in this day and age. Even if you wanted to talk to him, you couldn't. He's dead after all. Well, I miss Maya. Okay, so we licked the stamp, but wait. How does that explain the atropine on the rim of the coffee mug? If he licked the back of a poison stamp, the poison would get on his tongue, yes? What would then happen if he put the coffee mug to his mouth, The traces on the mug weren't the killer's doing. It was the other way around. What? The coffee mug didn't poison Mr. Measham. Mr. Measham poisoned the coffee mug himself.
Order, order, order. But that doesn't... does it?
Recall, if you would. Atropine is a slow-acting poison, yes? The poison entered his body when he put the stamp on that envelope, but his time wasn't up until the very moment he touched his lips to that cup of joe. Super Mario RPG. Sorry, I was thinking of old Nintendo games.
You have something to add, Mr. Russell?
Sonic the Hedgehog, Donkey Kong 3, Adventures of Lola 1 and 2. There, now everyone knows what I was talking about. Because just saying Super Mario RPG on its own, no context, that won't make sense. I was doing the Nirvana, the band, the show, or whatever. Uh-oh, his nose is picking up another scent.
As I believe I mentioned earlier.
Envelope. Mr. Measham sat there searching his desk drawer for something.
A stamp, a so-called postage stamp, end quote. Now, you know, I don't seem to remember him ever finding one.
Maybe he just run out.
Incidentally, we searched the desk drawer at the scene of the crime. There were no stamps, not a single one.
That does pose a problem. How will you prove that the stamp was coated with poison?
Actually, I'm glad no other stamps are found. It makes proving the stamp he used was poison possible. Good show, good show. You can't even prove there was a stamp at the scene in the first place. Yes, I can, yes, I can.
Well, let's hear what the defense has to say anyway. Where's your evidence that proves the existence of this poison stamp? Well, that certainly is a cute little frame. And by little, I mean really little.
It was on the victim's desk, Your Honor. Quite empty, as you can see for yourself. I noticed that too during my inspection, so what?
Apparently you weren't as observant as you should have been. You see, when you saw this frame, it was missing something quite important.
Missing something?
Yes, a pale bluish stain on the inside of the frame. Atrocinine residue.
What?
Why wasn't I told about this? The frame is only 2 inches square. The space of the frame is even smaller. Maybe an inch wide at most. You weren't saying that... Oh, but I am. Tell me, what fits in such a small frame? A commemorative stamp, perhaps?
Order, order, order! The poison stamp was in this frame?
Impossible.
Prosecutor Gaffin,
Why would he put something like that on his desk? Don't tell me he had it there so we could commit suicide if the mood struck.
you know, can I say something? I had a thought, see? What, Mr. Bushel? And please stop jittering around like that. The victim was a forger, right? There's a lot of money in that line of work. Forger forges friends, makes enemies too. End quote.
So the poison stamp might have been a murder weapon aimed at him. Oh, Rich, that's Rich. Leave the ridiculous flights of fancy to the Gavin song lyrics, please. Finally, something we agree on. The stamp was a murder weapon. Nonsense. Murder is a simple business. Who would go to such lengths? No one. Oh, I disagree. Come again? Recall, if you would, the victim's reclusive lifestyle. Drew Measham hid from the world. He avoided meetings. His only contact with the outside world was the mail.
The mail?
Now, if you wanted to kill someone you couldn't meet, but you knew read letters, a stamp would be the perfect weapon. Well, ridiculous. Where's your proof? I want proof. Show us evidence that this poison stamp was sent to him as a murder weapon. I might not have evidence, per se, but things are finally starting to come together. When is it, Apollo? Let's look at that stamp on this, because, I can't. Your fists are trembling. I think I know what happened. I don't believe it, but I can see it. I think I know how Mr. Measham was killed.
Well, fill us in, Mr. Justice.
A certain piece of evidence points to the truth, Your Honor. I can show you how someone with the intent to kill sent Mr. Measham the stamp of death. What? A certain piece of evidence points to the truth. I can show how someone with the intent to kill Drew Measham have deposited the... Sign the papers and send the enclosed envelope with the enclosed stamp!
Isn't this the envelope? The one from 7 years ago?
Think about the text of the letter again. There were 2 pages in the envelope. This is page 1. And this is page 2. Ooh. I want to draw your attention to one phrase in particular. Send in the enclosed envelope with the enclosed stamp within 3 days. The enclosed stamp, Your Honor.
In other words, if I have this straight, the stamp, poison, on the stamp, lick, lick, gasp, end quote.
Now, what if he had done exactly as the letter asked? He would sign the document, put it in the envelope, and put the stamp on it, right? Then he would put it in his letter box. 15 minutes wouldn't have elapsed between fixing the stamp and mailing the letter. But the clock started ticking, and when the time came, he drew his last breath. And then the murder weapon would be taken away from the scene.
Oh, quite conveniently, thanks to the postal system.
Oh. Such a splendid imagination you have here, Forehead. Let me confirm one thing with you, if I might. So, this poisoned stamp was inside this envelope from 7 years ago, yeah? Is that what you have us believe? Really? Well, no, just that, like, one day he received a letter that told him to, send a receipt with the enclosed stamp. And, well, it is a little bit of a stretch, but there's a possibility. Yes, a very small possibility. How small, I wonder? A poison stamp in this envelope, a stamp that then became the murder weapon.
How do you intend to prove this seeming coincidence? Not in this envelope, but another envelope that the same letter. Well,
It was 7 years ago, and we don't even know who sent that letter.
and your answer is silence, I see. Very well. I move to... It's not nice to pick on the Fräulein Clive here. Oh my god. Oh, hi. Emma, what? Why did you see your mentor? What the fuck happened? What the fuck happened? Well, like my Christoph Gavin impression. Did I sound like him? Don't quit your day job. Don't you have a crime scene to be looking after, Fräulein Detective? Someone had to come dig you out of the mess you're making of this case. Mess? You know, none of this would have happened if you just trusted in science a little more. You can find out if that stamp was in that envelope easy. Care to explain yourself, Fräulein Detective? Glare at me all you want, but science is on my side. It's all in the residue, right?
That's right. The poison detection spray.
Produce the red envelope at once. You can open it on the authority of the court.
Oh! Baba Booey. Easy game. Easy game.
Well, would you look at that?
No mistaking it. That's atrocanine residue.
I don't believe it. A murder weapon from the past. Now, 7 years later, it bears its fines at last.
Absolutely outrageous. Tell me why. Why didn't this murder take place 7 years ago? Well, there's one possibility. Maybe Mr. Measham figured it out.
Figured what out?
He realized that the person who sent that letter wanted him dead. So he sent her a supply with a different stamp.
And put his decisive evidence in a frame. You're still here?
Can I make a statement here on the record? I, Spark Razortooth Brushel, claim this scoop as mine. Drew Measham killed in cold blood by sender of 7-year-old letter. End quote. No, maybe something more succinct. Star falls after 7-year delay. End quote.
Order! I see no room for further argument here. Though I admit this is all coming as quite a shock. To think that the murder weapon reached his mouth after 7 years. Stamp is taken straight to afterlife. End quote.
Uh-oh, I think the witness has a bad influence on our judge. Oh, you're just now thinking that.
I see no need for further debate on this matter. The sender of that letter 7 years ago could hardly have been a defendant.
Apollo, I think we just won.
Very well. This court finds the defendant.
God damn it. Raising my hands, you fucker. Is this the bright future of our legal system?
Prosecute, Gavin.
This is the future liberals want. A ticket to the afterlife from 7 years ago. Tickets for Gavin's shows are invalid after 2 weeks.
But it doesn't make sense any other way.
It boggles my mind that so many people haven't noticed this. There's a fatal contradiction in Herr Forehead's claim. A contradiction? A poison stamp was placed in his envelope 7 years ago, whereupon it was framed until now. If that's the case, then why would Drew Measham have done what he did? How do I explain that? He must have realized it was poisoned. And therein lies the rub. Yeah, well, 7 years ago, the forger Drew Measham sensed a trap and put the stamp in a frame. I do not debate this, but this begs the question. Why 7 years later did he use that stamp on the night of the murder? Surely you don't mean to suggest that Mr. Measham simply forgore? He put the murder weapon in a frame on his desk for 7 years and forgot. You expect us to believe that he sprang the trap on himself, or. Yes, well, you see. Phooey.
I admit this is all quite shocking myself. It does seem highly unlikely that we run afoul of a trap. That had been sitting on his desk for 7 years.
Apollo, I don't think we're winning anymore. I don't think we're winning anymore. I keep fucking mixing the voices. I'm glad to see we're all back in the real world now. Welcome back to reality. We've been waiting for you. Okay, then how do you explain the poison stamp that was in the envelope? The poison stamp? Where exactly is this poison stamp again? Have you brought it to court for us? The fucking Phoenix Wright envelope. I see no proof that such a thing ever existed. What about the atrocanine residue, huh? Oh, I agree, that does seem to be atrocanine residue. But, Herr Forehead, it's certainly no stamp. Yeah, but even if your precious poison stamp did exist, June Measham never would have used it. That is all. Open the letter, Apollo. Say the line, Bart.
I believe we've come to a conclusion. Again.
Apollo, we were wrong the whole time? I can't believe it. The poison traces match up. It can't be coincidence.
I'd like to bring some closure to this issue sometime this year. Mr. Justice?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's review the facts and see where we start. 7 years ago, June Measham received a red envelope. There were traces of the poison atrocanine on the document inside that envelope. A similar trace was also found at the crime scene, on this tiny picture frame. The defense has indicated the possibility of a yellow envelope.
God, was that a... I don't know if that was a fly or one of those weird eye floaty things. Ah. That was definitely an eye floaty that I saw. You know, when they got, like, those little specks in your eyes, they float around, like, oh, what is that? Oh, I have really bad eyes.
The envelope that left the scene of the crime with the poison stamp on it.
Yes, but even in this envelope contained a poison stamp. Andrew Measham, knowing this, put it in a frame. He never would have used that stamp.
I'm afraid you're right, which means there's a fatal flaw in the defendant's case.
I haven't been on the wrong track this whole time, I'm sure of it. The traces of atrocanine, the envelope, the frame. This reminds me of a fucking riddle from my brother, one of the bad riddles. Man works at the poison factory. His wife tells him to wash his hands before dinner so he doesn't die. Surely he'd wear protective gloves or something if he works at the poison factory. And Drew Measham's mysterious death. They're all connected somehow.
Well, Mr. Justice, do you have a conclusion for us?
The defense stands by its case, Your Honor. We've seen that the logical outcome of the evidence makes no sense, which means that one of our clues must be a fake. A fake clue. Fascinating. And if we find this fake, your wild fantasies will prove quite reasonable, yeah? The fake clue that's thrown us off the poison's trail is none other than... So wait, don't tell me Drew Measham, it's an imposter?
The victim was a fake clue? I'm afraid I don't understand.
I'll explain. We have an envelope, a frame, and a mug, linked by poison. That all makes sense. What doesn't make sense is the victim himself. Congratulations, you've completely lost me, and me. So the fake evidence is none other than the master of fake himself, the forger? It makes a good story, I'll give you that. Think. The fake clue. Fakes. Forgeries. Ah, I know that face. Actually, I just had an idea face. I don't know if I'm right, but I'm going with it anyway. That's... that's this whole game in a sentence. What if our forger is the fake? Come again. 7 years ago, our forger sniffed a trap and stepped aside. 7 years passed. Now the forger stumbles into that very same trap and dies. Why?
That's what I want to know.
Because the forger who was killed was a fake. Here we are again. The victim was a fake. One forger smelled the trap. One forger fell into the trap. That's two forgers, and one of them was a fake.
Order! Order!
So you were telling us that Drew Measham, the victim, was a fake. Well, if he was the fake, who was the real forger? You'd better not be claiming there was some kind of switcheroo.
Oh, I am. I'm afraid you're going to have to back up your story. Mr. Justice, show us who the real Drew Measham was.
If Drew Measham wasn't the real forger, there's only one other person it could have been. Understood, Your Honor. forger Drew Measham himself was a forgery. The real forger was... Oh! I'm gonna have to... Vera? There can only be one explanation, The real identity of the forger, known as Drew Measham, is none other than his only daughter, Vera Measham.
Order, order. Mr. Justice, this is going out on a limb even for you.
I kinda agree. I mean, Vera, a forger? Let's consider it before you write it off entirely. If you look at the paintings in the studio, one fact becomes quite clear. Forgery had been taking place in that studio for quite some time. The forger wasn't caught in that trap 7 years ago. This can only mean that the one who was caught in the trap wasn't the forger.
Well, actually, that does make kind of sense. One more thing.
Only 2 sets of fingerprints were found in the forger's studio. Drew Measham's and Vera Measham's. If we know that Drew Measham wasn't the forger, that leaves only one possibility, by process of elimination. The forger was Vera Measham. Well... Fascinating.
Vera Measham, you've been paying attention to the trial so far.
Let's just ask her and be done with it, shall we? Who are you? Who is the forger, Drew Measham?
You're under oath!
Girl, Was that an expression of emotion I saw on her face? She's staring holes into Prosecutor Gavin's face. I'm used to being stared at by Fräuleins, believe me. Though they usually talk to me, too. Tell us, were you the one who forged those works of art? Yes.
So the forger, Drew Measham, was you?
Yes, it was me. Ah, saddy face.
What?
The court was in an uproar, and it wasn't coming down. We had to break for a 10-minute recess. To be continued. And ain't that the truth, because this has been going on for a while.